Drum roll. The total for traveling full-time was from November to November, so a full entire year. So next, drum roll, which you can probably already see here, is Italy coming in at 2,228. Keep in mind that we're going from the least to the most. So this is very interesting. So obviously, if you're traveling short term to a place, you're paying like a hotel per night. If you're staying for a month, you're literally paying just what you would pay rent wherever you live. Now, if you pay for a full year, like if you sign a contract, well, obviously that price decreases a lot more. There's only 4 cities left, so let's see who comes in with the highest monthly cost. Disclaimer number 1, these are the costs for 2 people. We are a couple. We even flew first class from Thailand back to Miami, which is a hunk of junk of a flight. On August 23rd, we turned in our apartment. On August 28th, my best friend got married. On August 30th, we were on a flight to Colombia, which would be the start of our nomad, full-time traveling, whatever you want to call it, journey. Like the first place we went to when we technically didn't have a home and we were just traveling. But I wouldn't necessarily count that as our first destination because we were staying with my family and that was more kind of like a family month off kind of thing. So from Colombia, we went to Seattle for a full month, Japan, 3 months in Thailand, back to the US, to Europe, Portugal, and Spain for 3 months altogether, back to the US, Mexico for 3 months, back to the US, back to Europe, Croatia, and Italy, and here we are currently in Italy. And I want the total of expenses to be as real and spot on as it could possibly get for a full year of traveling. So let's do from last November, like November 1st to this November, which is an entire year of all those destinations that I just mentioned. Let's go. The desire to calculate exactly what traveling full-time means to your wallet actually came up from the video I did over here on Croatia, where I decided to share like, hey, how much does it cost to spend a full month in Croatia? And that's something that, as I mentioned in the video, you have the cost like at the top of your head, but you don't know specifically like how much on dining, how much on groceries, how much on entertainment. Like you don't really look at that each single month, which is when I realized, hold on, what if I calculated this for the entire year? I knew I had to do it because first of all, I want to know exactly, because I do have my theories on which location was more than the others. I honestly predict that Mexico is going to come higher than anything in Europe, and I think Tulum or Mexico City will be probably one of the highest compared to like anything. That's my final say. So I downloaded all the transactions, and as you can imagine, not an easy task. We're talking about 12 months of transactions. So there I am, I'm cleaning up the spreadsheet, I'm making it like understandable, I'm sorting, I'm fixing the categories so that everything is like understandable. And yes, this process started at the nail salon, which is a very good place to be productive. And all those expenses are going to be covered in the breakdown. We're talking not only like lodging and airfare, but entertainment. Like how much does it actually cost to live? Like Gabe goes to the barber shop, I go to the nail salon, like we'll normally get a massage in each place, like if friends come to visit, all of that. So here I am figuring everything out with my Excel brain, but things just weren't adding up. Like I knew something was missing, and that's when I realized, hello, we run a business. So a lot of the things are actually also on our business account. And I was like, okay, now I'm gonna have to get both of these and basically create a mashup to get the real, like realistic full year expense. And that's what I'm about to show you. So let's dive in to the Excel. Voila. So my biggest concern was having this specific part like down pat. I didn't want any single charge or dollar to be missing from this section, which is probably the section that if you are traveling, it's most likely your biggest expense. And we're talking about the lodging, where you're actually staying while traveling. So as you can see here in the Excel, we have it sorted by lodging, and in total, all those charges come out to a total of $22,710. And here is where the things get good. We're gonna start off by looking at the cost divided by category. So I organized everything. I made it as neat and as like understandable as possible. I did remove things that weren't related. We do still have USA expenses, and I'll talk about that later on. So one by one, here we go. the total in lodging for a full year traveling, as I mentioned, $22,710. Then in airfare, we have $8,114, $7,512 groceries, $6,455 for dining, $4,994 for transportation, $1,577 for entertainment, $1,448 for storage. This is a USA-based cost that I did decide to include because hello, we did turn in our lease, but we do still have things sitting in the storage. Now we go back here, $796 for gas and automotive. So in the places where we have rented cars or scooters, etc. Car rental, $699. Other services, which I'll get into, $628. Pharmacy, doctor's visits, $493. I'll also talk about that. And then insurance, $371. Now, insurance hasn't been for the entire year. The only cost that I'm factoring in here is when we had passport cards, which is no longer available to people from the US. I don't know why. I thought they were pretty good, but good thing we had them in the countries that require you to have a travel insurance. I have now switched to global health insurance, which is like my biggest adult flex. And that cost isn't included here because it's like my personal expense, which I'll jump into later on. And yes, we are also going to look at the full expenses by location. So lodging is pretty simple and straight up. The only thing that I do want to add here is probably like the biggest lesson that we learned from traveling full time, because in Thailand technically counted as like our first destination, like out there, like, hey, figure it out by yourself, because in Seattle, we stayed at a Hello Landing apartment for the entire month. So that was pretty simple. Like it's one apartment, it's one flat rate, and that's it. Now in Thailand, we got there and obviously it was our first time in Thailand. We wanted to go to different places to see and experience the different regions. So we went to Bangkok was where we landed. Then we went to Phuket, Koh Samui, which is an island, and then to Chiang Mai. Now here in lodging, what I did was automatically just go to hotels. And that was a big mistake. Staying at hotels basically means that you're being charged per night, when instead what we learned is that the more nights that you spend at a place, if you're doing an Airbnb, the bigger the discount will get. So in Thailand, our lodging expenses were like through the roof of what Thailand expenses for literally an apartment should be. But we learned that lesson. So after Thailand, everything is like a month stay in Airbnb. I think all these other charges are pretty easy to understand. The only thing here, other services, is basically barbershops, nail salons, massages, like anything like that that comes up that doesn't really fall under the other categories, but isn't pharmacy or doctor's visits. So this, most of the cost is just like pharmacy things that you're going to buy. But I have had Gabe never had to go, but I have had to go to the doctor I didn't go in Thailand, but I did get food poisoning. I went to the doctor in Seattle, and I have US insurance, and then that was still very pricey. And then I went in Mexico because I got food poisoning again. Oh, hello, I hadn't even realized that the total was here. So drum roll, the total for traveling full-time was $55,798 from November to November. So a full entire year. And you're going to see these expenses broken down by location, by country. And I went even further and went by city because I was looking at it, and Mexico showed up super high. But of course, that's where we spent literally 3 months, like exactly. So I was like, no. I want to see the clear exact numbers by city. So that's what we have down here. Okay, remember what my predictions were? You should come up with your own predictions. What do you think is going to be the highest for a full month and the lowest for a full month out of the countries that I mentioned? Write it in the comments or we're not moving on. Okay, here we go. Obviously, let's leave it like this. So the first 3 are places that we had layovers at. So Bangkok was kind of a layover, but it was kind of also a destination. We spent probably 2 days there. We had a Lisbon layover and a Paris layover. So that's why these obviously come up at top for the lowest. As we start to go down, we have Phuket, which comes to a total of $1,670 with everything, like everything, lodging, expenses, dining, entertainment, blah, blah, you name it. But remember that Thailand was a place where we kind of went into it like without knowing anything. We didn't know that by spending a month, like first of all, you don't burn out. As a full-time traveler, I think that's what like the main communication is. And even from people on the outside, they're like, aren't you tired? Like if I travel a couple of days, like I'm already tired. And the answer is no. The reason why I don't feel that burnout is because after Thailand, I decided like, no, I have to stay at a place 30 days. Like I want to make it feel like home. I do not want to feel like a tourist. Like I'm not on vacation mode. This year has been working. I work remotely, so I'm working every day. Like I want to keep my routine. So that was like the main thing that I realized I had to do in every location. Like for sure, at least 30 days. But like I mentioned back in Thailand, I was a newbie and didn't have like my systems in place as a full-time traveler, which I definitely feel like I have them now. So next, drum roll, which you can probably already see here, is Italy coming in at 2,228. Keep in mind that we're going from the least to the most. So this is very interesting, but another disclaimer, Italy isn't factoring in the full entire month. This is only half of the month because we still have the other half of November, but since we decided to do November 1st to November 1st for the year calculations, that's what it is. So I would say the full Italy cost would probably come out to 3,500, almost getting close to 4,000, but not quite there yet. Next, we have Puerto Escondido, and this is a place where it was for the entire month. So 30, maybe even 31 days, if that's how long the month was, days in Puerto Escondido, Mexico, which is the most beautiful beach town. Honestly, I loved it a lot more than Tulum, and I have to say than Mexico City. And hello, it was 2,750 for everything, lodging, groceries, everything. As we keep on scrolling down, we have USA. So USA is all those times that we've come back during the entire year. So we typically fly back to the US probably like 2 weeks max every quarter. And throughout the year, this has been the total for that time there, 2,795. Next, we have Koh Samui, $2,803. That is an island in Thailand. I wouldn't necessarily recommend it for a full month just because it is like more of the resort vibe and like touristy. There are a handful of remote workers and there are places to work from, but just my personal opinion, I think it's more of like resort vacation style versus like living 1 month. Next, we have Malaga, Spain, and that total came out to 3,425. Malaga, Spain was beautiful, but I do have to add that there weren't that many places to eat out, which is why I probably think the costs are so low because we didn't have where to eat out. So we would just buy groceries and cook. I mean, that's normally what we do day to day because we like being able to control our ingredients. Like I mentioned, like I've created these routines where I have my systems in place, and eating out for a full year is not fun. So Malaga was beautiful. We did do road trips every weekend around that whole part, which is absolutely insane, but that's probably why the costs are so low. Next, we have Mexico City coming in at 3,580, which is incredibly surprising. The minute I stepped foot, not the minute I stepped foot, but while I was in Mexico, I was like, wow, I definitely like don't understand, not the hype, I get it. It's a beautiful place. There's tons and tons to do, but I was like, wow, like everyone said like $1 tacos. No, like as I mentioned in the video that I did on Mexico City, I think we paid like $8 or something for one taco. It was amazing, but it wasn't like what people were telling me it was, but I did love it. I think we had the most like insane luxury experiences in Mexico City still for a fraction of the cost. Plus, our apartment views were stunning. All right, moving down this list, we have Chiang Mai coming in at $3,665. This was our third and last spot in Thailand, which means we did know that we wanted to spend a full month there. So that was the first place in Thailand where we got a full Airbnb, which means we got a really nice home, like with kitchen, very, very nice amenities. Like the place had a sauna, a gym, it had it all for a really great price. And in total, $3,665. The only thing here that I would add, because I know some people might be thinking like, isn't Thailand supposed to be a lot less? Like people say you can live there for $800. And yes, but I think the people that say that are literally because they're staying there the entire year. So obviously, if you're traveling short term to a place, you're paying like a hotel per night. If you're staying for a month, you're literally paying just what you would pay rent wherever you live. Now, if you pay for a full year, like if you sign a contract, well, obviously that price decreases a lot more. The friends that we made that live in Thailand pay from $600 to $800 for a beautiful beautiful, luxurious apartment. That's not really the case when you're traveling like long term. When you're doing a month, it's like pretty average to a normal rent. For Chiang Mai, however, we did have friends and family visit, and we did do more of the touristy things that I normally don't do in the other locations that we go to, because this was our first time in Thailand, and like, hello, I really wanted my experience with the elephants. And yes, it was like a super protected sanctuary, like a really, really wild experience. So don't say anything. All right, moving down, we have Tulum, 4,546 for a whole month in Tulum. What do you think? Is it worth it or not? Personally, I would say just because Tulum right now I don't think is ready. Like, the infrastructure just isn't there yet. The roads were completely unpaved, which usually when other people were saying it, I was like, whatever, like how hard could it be? No, like it's hard, and it actually just like, it becomes a bother where it's like, it's a hard time to get around, and it's not really worth it right now. There's only 4 cities left, so let's see who comes in with the highest monthly cost. Moving down, after Tulum, we have Canarias. So Canarias is in Spain. It is an island that is not connected to Spain at all. It's actually very, very close to Africa. There is a part where you can literally see Africa from a distance because of how close it is. It is the most stunning location ever, with the wildest landscapes, like volcanoes, beaches, absolutely insane. The people there are like the nicest people ever. I would definitely go back. And that came out to a total of $4,546. Oh, never mind. I was looking at the wrong one. I mean, $4,800. Continuing our list, we have Croatia for a total of $6,551. Now, this amount is actually calculating the full month and also airfare. That's something that in the dedicated Croatia video was not included. And second to last, we have Seattle coming in at $7,463. Now, as I mentioned, this was a full month living in Seattle in November. It was very cold. And while I did definitely enjoy it, I'm just not a fan of the cold. So I would definitely want to go back in like the summer, springtime to just enjoy it a lot more. And now you can finally, drum roll, last but definitely not least, we have my favorite city in the world, Lisbon, coming in at a total of $8,925. Is that the one you were expecting? It definitely was not the one that I was expecting, not at all. I thought Mexico or Tulum would be like coming in at number 1, but I guess not. The numbers are proving us wrong. And again, just in case you missed it, the total for the entire year has been $55,762, but it doesn't stop just there because we do have disclaimers. So disclaimer number 1, these are the costs for 2 people. We are a couple. Ta-da! This is who I travel with. This is Gabe. If you didn't know him, now you know him. Thank you. Back to the disclaimers. This isn't backpack style. You can definitely do this for a lot less. Of course you can. It's not what I want. And this isn't also full like luxury. No, this is literally our same life that we had living in Florida, in Sarasota, or in Orlando, because we did used to jump in Florida as well. We did 1 year in different cities, and we lived in like 3 to 4 different cities in Florida. It's our same life, just put in a different place in the world. So we're exploring while we're working. Like I mentioned, we're still working. And while we're doing our normal day-to-day routines, like our days look exactly the same in every place. It's just a different background. The activities do vary from city to city. I think if we literally compared apples to apples, the results would be very different, but that's not realistic to what I spent during the entire year. Like if we only factored in groceries, lodging, and I don't know, because even like our activities vary. Like if we go to the spa here, but then let's say here in Italy, like where we're staying, there's no spa. I just went to like this regular massage place. Well, obviously the massage here is going to cost a lot less than a Croatia spa, which was like the best spa of all of Croatia. So point is, the activities vary from place to place. And like I mentioned, Thailand, for example, normally I would say that the monthly costs are way lower than what we have, but it was our first time in Thailand. So it's like you had to do those bucket list items, which if we went back, like I don't think we would do again. Continuing with the disclaimers, some hotels and flights were booked with points, so they're not added on here. I'm going to tell you an ultimate hack because we have saved a lot of money using points. We even flew first class from Thailand back to Miami, which is a hunk of junk of a flight. Like if you haven't flown to Asia, those are the flights that, it's a long one. Like, I love flying, but that's a long flight. Like, you need to be comfy. So it comes in handy, so just wait till I get to that part. Another big disclaimer, and this is probably one of the biggest ones that you should listen up to. We partnered during this year, like November to November, with Selena, Hello Landing, and Fiverr. So those costs we did not pay out of pocket, but I did include it in the sum for the full entire year because I wanted it to be as realistic as possible to the way we travel, the places we've stayed at, because most of those partnerships were for lodging, which is obviously a big and like the most important expense. Moving on to another big disclaimer, this doesn't include our personal expenses, USA expenses, business expenses, etc. So what I mean by personal expenses, Gabe and I by ourselves, we have each like our own personal expenses, like my clothes, things that I buy for myself, gifts, whatever it may be, that is not included here. Business expenses, USA expenses, like car insurance, health insurance, like we did have a car for half of the time that we were traveling and we were still paying car payments on it. So it is what it is. We have now returned the lease. We just weren't sure like how long we were going to travel for. But noting that this is something that's going to be a bit longer, we're like, okay, let's return this. We don't need this car. Another disclaimer. So the USA cost, USA is our home base. So when we go to the USA, that's literally to be with our families, to see everyone. So we're obviously staying at our family's house. And that's usually maximum like 2 weeks every quarter, as I mentioned. Last but not least, disclaimer, some charges include costs for friends and family. So when we have traveled with friends, like if something's on our car, like I'm not going to go in and like divide the cost. So we have had people stay with us, people visit us, etc. You get it. And now to a very important part, tools that give us benefits. Like I mentioned, 4 points, Capital One Venture X. I'm going to put the link down below because if you use that link, you get 75,000 points just for signing up. And that's the one that I used. And then I sent the link to Gabe. And so obviously we combined our points. And with that, we were able to travel first class back from Thailand to Miami. And it was amazing. So it's definitely worth it. Obviously, like I mentioned, Airbnb long-term is a great thing to use if you're traveling long-term. Now I do have global health insurance. I signed up with Cigna, which covers me anywhere in the world. It is my biggest adult flex. Like I literally feel like an adult and so accomplished that I have global health insurance. That cost is not included. It's a personal cost. Plus I recently just signed up for it. So last but not least, Nomad List. It's a website that we use that is very helpful in finding out like what city is the best in each country, like seeing other people that have gone there, getting recommendations from other people. So it's been pretty helpful. And that's pretty much it from, the things that came to the top of my head. I used to always see like people traveling full time and be like, I want to ask so many things, but I just didn't know how to. But I really do hope this video like opens up your eyes that it is very possible. You can definitely do it for a lot more if that's in your budget. And it has been literally an experience of a lifetime. There's a saying in Spanish that's like, nadie te quita lo viajado, no one takes away like what you traveled. And it literally gives me goosebumps every time I hear it because that is so true. Like collecting experiences is worth every single penny. So if you have any questions, I'm gonna be literally going one by one and answering because this is something that I genuinely feel like so many other people should take advantage of and do. Hope you enjoy. Bye bye.